Deep in the primeval forests of Aotearoa, the darkness is absolute. Beneath the canopy of ancient podocarps, a lone Māori warrior moves through the undergrowth, a shadow within shadows. To the naked eye, there is nothing, no horizon, no landmarks. He's for all intents and purposes blind. But then he reaches out. His hands find the trunk of a bonga, the magnificent silver tree fern. With a deft practice movement, he turns a single frond, and the effect is extraordinary. The underside of the leaf is coated in a silver white powder that catches the weakest, most fleeting glint of moonlight filtering through the leaves above. Suddenly, what was an impenetrable wall of black becomes a luminescent beacon. This is the ancient technology of the bush, a living GPS guiding him back to the safety of his village. It's a plan that guided a nation through the dark, and today it's still showing the way. This is the Silver Fern.
To understand the silver fern, we first have to look at where ferns sit in the massive family tree of life. Scientists classify ferns as bataridophytes, a unique group of vascular plants that have been around for over 360 million years, which means they are one of the oldest plants and have been around for longer than the dinosaurs, surviving mass extinctions and dominating landscapes. As we narrow our focus to the Pacific, we find the heavyweights of the fern world, which are the tree ferns. While most ferns crawl along the forest floor, these giants belonging to the Cyathea family decided to grow trunks. This brings us to the most famous member of the family, which is the silver fern. The scientific discovery of the silver fern is credited to George Foster, who first described it in 1786. But while most European botanists provided the Western scientific classification, Maori people had discovered and used the silver fern, known as ponga or kaponga, for centuries prior, utilizing its reflective underside for nighttime forest navigation. What sets the silver fern apart from its cousins in the botanical registers is a specific adaptation called farrinose. This is a silvery white powder coating found exclusively on the underside of its mature fronds. While the top of the leaf is a standard forest green to soak up the sun through photosynthesis, the silver bottom acts like a biological mirror, reflecting light and helping the plant manage moisture in the humid bush.
As mentioned earlier, ferns, including the silver tree fern, are one of the oldest plants in history, dating back to the days when dinosaurs once roamed the earth, and they continue to exist even after the mass dinosaur extinction, and it is all accredited to their reproductive secret. When it comes to making babies, they skip the flowers, the bees, and all the modern drama. Unlike the flowers or trees in your backyard, ferns are seedless. They occupy a strange middle ground in evolution, possessing a complex internal plumbing system to move water but reproducing through microscopic dust-like spores. Within this broad group, there are over 10,000 species ranging from tiny water fleas to the giants of the Pacific, but they all share the same basic autonomy: a root system, a stem, and the famous leafy fronds that unfurl from a tight spiral. Check this out. These aren't just freckles. Each one of these tiny clusters is called a cirrus, that's plural for sorry, and inside them are microscopic dust-like spores. Although they look innocent, they're basically miniature grenades ready to launch the next generation. When the air dries out, these things act like tiny slingshots, flinging thousands of spores into the wind with astonishing force. It's their version of a social media blast. Send it everywhere and hope someone sees it. Although most spores fail, the lucky ones land in a damp spot and sprout into something completely different. It's not a fern frond you'd recognize. It's a tiny, flat, heart-shaped little plant called a gametophyte. It looks like a moss and lives on its own. But here's where things get weird. This little heart has both male and female parts. When it rains, everything gets going. The male parts release microscopic sperm that literally swim through the rainwater to the female parts. Yes, they need a puddle to have a future. It's a literal biological swim meet. Once a sperm meets an egg, it creates the actual baby fern. That tiny sprout, that little coiled fiddlehead, grows out of the heart-shaped plant. It uses the little heart for food for a while, before growing its own big roots and fronds, eventually becoming the towering silver fern we know and love. The little gametophyte heart then shrivels up and disappears. It's a wild two-part life cycle that's kept these silver ferns alive for millions of years. No flowers, no seeds, just wind-powered catapults and microscopic swim meat. The ultimate survival strategy from the ultimate survivors. The silver dust found on the undersides of silver fern fronds is a sophisticated biological coating known as farrinose, composed of complex epithelial waxes. These waxes are synthesized inside the plant cells and then sweated out through the leaf surface, where they spontaneously self-assemble into a microscopic forest of three-dimensional crystals. On a chemical level, this dust is a cocktail of long-chain fatty acids, primary alcohols, and specialized molecules called flavonoids. Flavonoids are recognized as a vast family of more than 10,000 diverse plant chemicals. Found in almost all vascular plants, these polyphenolic compounds are responsible for vibrant red, purple, and blue pigments in fruits, flowers, and vegetables. It is specifically these flavonoids that give the wax its distinctive white silver appearance rather than the clear film found on most other plants. Now, researchers have studied the silver frond and found that the primary job of the silver wax at the backside of the frond is to act like a biological sunblock. By reflecting harsh sunlight and harmful UV rays, the silver color prevents the fern's sensitive tissues from burning and keeps the plant much cooler in the humid Pacific heat. This waxy layer is incredibly hydrophobic, meaning it repels water like a raincoat. This prevents the heavy New Zealand rain from soaking into the leaves and making them too heavy, while simultaneously helping the plant lock in its own internal moisture so it doesn't dry out. Beyond just physical protection, the silver dust acts as a natural security system by creating a slippery, chemical barrier that makes it difficult for pests and fungi to take hold of the plant. As mentioned earlier, the wax crystals are extremely hydrophobic. They repel water so effectively that rain beats up and rolls off the leaf almost instantly. As these droplets slide away, they act like a natural vacuum, picking up and carrying away dirt, fungus, spores, and bacteria before they ever have a chance to settle and infect the plant's tissues. This self-cleaning service makes it nearly impossible for most common diseases to find a stable place to grow on the fern. On top of being a water-repellent shield, the silver dust acts as a physical deterrent for insects. On a microscopic level, the wax creates an incredibly slippery, uneven surface that it's like walking on a floor covered in ball bearings for pests like aphids or mites. This makes it extremely difficult for them to get grip of the leaf or navigate towards the plant's nutritious veins to feed. By making the plant physically inaccessible and hard to climb, the fern drastically reduces the damage caused by herbivorous insects. Finally, the silver dust provides a layer of chemical warfare. The wax is infused with flavonoids and long-chain organic compounds that act as natural antibiotics and fungicides. These chemicals can directly inhibit the growth of harmful microbes and often make the leaves taste bitter to animals, discouraging them from eating the fronds. The incredible reflective power of the silver fern is used by Maori people for navigation at nighttime. It comes from the way these tiny wax crystals, shaped like platelets or rodlets, are arranged. Because they are oriented in every direction at a microscopic scale, they create a rough surface that causes diffuse reflection. This means that even when the tiniest bit of ambient light from the moon or stars hit these crystals, they scatter in multiple directions. At nighttime, the Maori travelers would snap the fronds and lay them silver side up on the forest floor. Because the silver dust is so efficient at reflecting even the faintest glimmer of moonlight or starlight, these leaves acted like a natural glow-in-the-dark signposts, allowing people to move safely through the pitch-black bush without needing fire. Beyond guiding the way, the plant was a cornerstone of rangawa Māori, or traditional medicine, where the soft pulpy center of the trunk was pounded into a cooling poultice to treat skin sores, and the sap was used as a natural antiseptic for wounds. The same is true for its other fern cousins in other Pacific islands such as Fiji, Hawaii, and Samoa, that all use different fern species to treat sores, fevers, and other infections. If the Pacific forest were a city, the tree fern would not just be a building. It would be an entire infrastructure. These giants are what we call keystone species. They start their work by acting as the ultimate high-rise apartments. Their fibrous, spongy trunks are basically living sponges, soaking up water and providing a sky-high habitat for orchids, mosses, and other smaller ferns that couldn't survive on the ground. But it's not just plants moving in. The dense, shaggy skirt of the dead fronds around the trunk is a luxury hotel for lizards, rare insects, and nesting birds looking for a humid hideout. It acts as a natural light filter, blocking out aggressive weeds and giving delicate native seedlings a safe shaded space to grow. When the heavy Pacific rains hit, the tree fern becomes a biological shield. Those massive fronds break the fall of the water, while its plate-like root system grip the earth, preventing the soil from being washed away in a landslide. It's not just holding the ground together though, it's also cleaning it. Through a process called phytoremediation, these ferns actually suck up toxins and remove heavy metals out of the soil, acting like a giant green detox machine. And because they reproduce using wind-blown spores instead of heavy seeds, they are the first responders of the plant world. If a fire or volcano wipes out the forest slate clean, the ferns are the first ones back on the scene, stabilizing the land so the rest of the forest can follow. But this ancient green machine, which has survived for 300 million years, is finally meeting an enemy it can't outgrow. All that work, the sky-high apartments, the soil cleaning, the natural flood protection, it all vanishes when the forest is cleared. Deforestation across the Pacific isn't just about losing trees, it's about pulling the rug out from under an entire ecosystem. When the tree ferns are cut down, the nursery they provided disappears, leaving the soil exposed to the scorching sun. Without that protective canopy, the ground dries up, and those native seedlings we talked about, they stand zero chance. But through it all, New Zealanders are mounting a massive comeback for the silver fern by blending high-tech science with the ancient spirit of guardianship. By placing these ancient giants under the
protection of the Department of Conservation, the government has essentially turned New Zealand's national parks into massive, safe haven fortresses where the silver fern can unfurl in peace. This is something everyone around the world can learn from, that by integrating traditional knowledge, scientific data collection, and government policies can raise more awareness for both young and old people to see that although these gentle green giants cannot move, they serve a huge role in making sure nature is balanced out. Through tree replanting programs and educational curriculums on the traditional uses of native trees, how trees rely on us. Though it's a powerful shift in the narrative, New Zealanders aren't just watching the forest disappear. They are actively rebuilding it, proving that with enough respect and right technology, the silver fern will continue to light the way for generations to